Symbiosis is when two different entities provide a mutual benefit to each other. The classic example is the clownfish and the sea anemone. Clownfish eats the invertebrates that prey on the sea anemone. The sea anemone, with its sting that the clownfish is immune to, protects the clownfish from its predators. Now I want to describe to you a symbiotic relationship that you might not know about, that you probably don't know about. That between Jewish education and a field of scientific research called the learning sciences. Do I have to define Jewish education for anyone? Whew, all right, good, all right. But I do want to talk about what the learning science is real briefly. It combines interdisciplinary research, all to improve our understanding of learning. I'm a learning scientist, and I think I have one of the coolest jobs in the world because, I know I'm biased, but I do think it's an awesome job because I conduct research in psychology, computer science, sociology, a lot of different field areas to unpack the learning process and then take those findings and use them to design better ways to learn. And so today I want to describe to you this symbiotic relationship between this field of research, the learning sciences, and Jewish education. And to do that, I'm going to give you 3 examples. The first example will show how the learning sciences can help us better understand Jewish education. The second example will show how Jewish education can help us better understand how people learn, make a contribution to the learning sciences. And the third example, the full symbiosis, how Jewish education and the learning sciences can concurrently support each other. Okay, the first example, how the learning sciences help us better understand Jewish education. So learning science research says that for assessment to be high quality, it has to meet certain criteria. And before anyone gets kind of upset or nervous about a subject, assessment is not the same as standardized testing, which is a hot topic. High quality assessment does something different. High quality assessment provides summative feedback, a measure of how someone has learned, whether they've reached their learning goal or their learning objective. High quality assessment also provides formative feedback, guidance to the learner about how they're progressing in their learning trajectory, how close they're getting toward their eventual learning goal. High quality assessment should be ongoing. It shouldn't just happen once. It should also take place in an authentic context. If you want to assess whether someone's ready to conduct brain surgery, we probably want to go beyond just a multiple choice test on pencil and paper. So what does this have to do with Jewish education? Well, let's take a classic Jewish education assessment practice. Bar bat mitzvah. It's a summative feedback experience. Bar bat mitzvah student gets called up to the bima, says a blessing over the Torah, and hopefully along the way they've gotten formative feedback. But sometimes the bar and bat mitzvah experience doesn't have the results that we expect. For some students, it's a meaningful experience. For others, it isn't. For some, they learn a lot. Others, not so much. Why is that? Well, learning science research says that some of those bar and bat mitzvah experiences aren't including enough formative feedback, that the learner is not getting guidance about how they're progressing in their learning trajectory. Some of those bar and bat mitzvah experiences don't seem authentic to the student. To them, maybe the bar and bat mitzvah, it's superficial, it's just become a show. And so in education, we're always concerned with practical outcomes. What can we do right now? So we can tell Jewish educators responsible for guiding bar and bat mitzvah students through their learning process that they need to make sure that the process includes formative feedback, that that formative feedback's ongoing, and that the student understands that the whole experience is authentic practice. Okay, example number 2. How Jewish education can help us better understand how learning occurs. To do that, I want to take a classic Talmudic pedagogical practice, chavruta. At its simplest, chavruta is the act of peers studying together, providing support and challenging each other's learning. It's such an effective practice. We've been doing it since the 1st century of the Common Era. Well, you might not be surprised, but learning science research also says that peer tutoring, peer feedback is effective. In fact, peer tutoring and peer feedback is so effective, it seems to be more effective than individualized instruction, more effective than increased time spent on learning? And to the chagrin of parents everywhere, including myself, it seems like peer feedback is more effective than increased parental involvement in the learning process. So then how come we don't see it in every single classroom in the United States? Why not? Well, one of the key challenges is we don't know how to take it to scale. We don't know how to get teachers to recognize and understand how peer feedback should be a go-to pedagogical practice. How to get students ready to understand that peer feedback can improve their learning. Jewish education knows how to take it to scale. And so, again, because we care about being practical in education, we can say that here is an opportunity for learning scientists to study how Chavruta is taken to scale, how Jewish educators are indoctrinated in the use of Chavruta, how they're taught to use it as a pedagogy, and how Jewish education students are taught to rely on it to improve their learning outcomes. You can imagine, if we can extract this and apply it in different content areas, social studies teachers using Chavruta in their classrooms and students learning history through peer feedback. Okay, third example, the full symbiosis. How Jewish education and the learning sciences can concurrently support each other. And to do that, I want to talk about gamification. Gamification is the use of game-like qualities in non-gaming contexts. And I bet you've all experienced it. Anyone participate in a frequent flyer program? You're earning points, like a game, for something that's not game-like, flying in airplanes. So, learning scientists have hypothesized that gamification can play a positive role in education. In particular, me and colleagues have suggested that a type of gamification called educational badges or digital badges can actually be very effective in learning. If you're not familiar with these badges, they're very similar to the merit badges earned by Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. They're a very common feature of video game systems. Ask a serious video game player and they'll tell you about the achievements, the badges, the trophies that they'll earn. And so, myself and colleagues have suggested that these badges can provide motivation, assessment, credentialing for learning that doesn't necessarily always get it. But it's just a hypothesis, it's just an idea until we can test it out in authentic learning contexts. And so I sought out partnerships with Jewish educators who on their own were already embracing this innovative pedagogy, who were already looking at it for both formal and informal Jewish learning, for students and for teachers. And I studied what they were doing, and the result is empirical, published, scientific research that not only tells us how badges can be used in Jewish education, but also provides design principles for how badges can be used in any educational setting, Jewish and secular. And because, again, we always care about being practical in education, we now know that these badges, to be motivating, they have to represent part of the learner's identity. The student has to see the badge as representing who they are as a learner. Okay, so those are the three examples. And so I just want to leave you with a call to action, but a call to action to those who care about Jewish education, to Jewish educational stakeholders. This symbiosis between Jewish education and the learning sciences can mutually support each other, but only with increased work and effort. Learning sciences should be a part of all Jewish education. It should be part of the development of new Jewish education pedagogy. It should be part of the preparation of new Jewish educators. It should be part of our expectation for all Jewish learning. But it won't happen unless we pop the metaphorical bubbles that we reside in. I, as a learning scientist, I need to seek out partnerships, more partnerships with innovative Jewish educators, study what they do, and then take my findings and share them. Innovative Jewish educators need to seek partnerships with learning scientists like myself, so they can take advantage of the latest scientific research on learning. And so, if we can do this, if we can support this symbiosis, I believe we can better understand how we learn and build the future of education.
Thanks for watching ELITalks. Click through or subscribe to the ELITalks channel for more inspired Jewish ideas.